Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another video on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. So today I have something really special for you. I'm going to be doing a Halloween edition, which is why I'm wearing my Hocus Pocus sweater. We've got Spooky Boo in the back, a couple of cute Halloween things. So this was actually, I can't take credit for this idea. This was my husband's idea because he loves when I channel like weird things. He just thinks it's so fascinating, and he's always got all these questions for me to try. And so the Halloween edition was born by his desire to know more about like vampires. I think that's like his one of his really strong interests, and he feels like, this is a very real thing, and potentially he feels like a connection with that, maybe a past life. So that's so cool. And like I've always had like a huge, like, if you know me, if you're close to me, you already know this, but I'm like obsessed with werewolves. I've read all the werewolf series. I mean, if there's a series about werewolves, I've already read it. I've always been Team Jacob. Like, it's just, I can't help myself. So I love the werewolves, and there are so many other things that we could ask about, right? So I thought, how fun, like, let's do something a little bit different where we channel some really interesting information that has this bit of a Halloween theme. And I have some ideas written down of what we could channel, but we'll see what happens and we'll see what comes through. And we'll also see how long this goes. I might do a part 2 for next Sunday as well. So if there's a bunch of like requests from you guys and I don't get through my list, then there's a high potential for Halloween edition part 2, which may or may not include me wearing a Halloween costume. I'm just going to put that out there. Potential. Let's see what you think about that. Okay. So I already set up the sacred space. Okay. So that's really important to do before you channel. That's the ethical thing to do. If you took my Psychic Foundations masterclass, you know that it's really important to set up a sacred space with high vibrational. I use archangels. I connect with God's source. In this case, I also connected with Gaia. I ask for my ego and my own personal preferences to kind of just be removed to the side for now, so that I can really be this pure channel, and it's not about what I want to come through. It's truly just spontaneous and the truth and what wants to come through. And I set the beautiful intention that everything that comes through be of divine origins and divinely true. So when I was setting up the sacred space, the first interesting thing that happened is that I heard the words record keepers of earth. So I was being guided for who to connect with for this information. Like, who do you ask about like vampires and werewolves and all of that? So I was guided to ask for the record keepers of earth. And then I was shown all of these crystals, a lot of triangular shaped crystals, like buried in the earth, which is very interesting to me because I did a video about this Lemurian crystal with you guys, and a lot of the Lemurian crystals are record keepers. You can see in the etchings along the side, and also sometimes they have little tiny triangular imprints on them, and those are really powerful record keepers. So, crystals are really powerful. They literally are recording information for the next era, for the next civilization, for the next millennia or whatever. And people then can access them. People like me can access them by like going into the energy and channeling that. So it's like, maybe you're like me and you wonder, well, like I always need to know who I'm channeling from, like who the source is. I don't just channel willy-nilly. I always, if I'm with a client, I'm channeling their team. And that could be lots of people, but it's their team. If it's me, I know who I want to connect with. Often I'll connect with the Council for Humanity or just God's source or my own team or a specific person. And I always let you know what that source is. That's a super ethical psychic. So you want to make sure that when you're listening to somebody's channeled messages, that they know who the source is, so that it's not their own ego. Anyway, the source here is going to be the record keepers of earth. And I saw them again as these crystals that are embedded in the earth. It's like a library. It's like a library of all of these different, like I have a lot of crystals in front of me right now, but like all of these different crystals kind of like almost propped up with the points facing upwards, it looks like, buried deeply into the earth, like deep, like even it looked like under like the crust of the, like, I don't know, just seemed really deep, like it was under like a main layer of something, which I wanted to say the crust of the earth. I don't know if that's possible, but it seems like they were buried very, very deeply, and it looks intentional. It's all lined up like a library. So that's what Gaia showed me when I connected with her and asked who do I ask for this information? Okay, so let's get started. Here's what I have on my list. I have werewolves. We'll see if we get through this all. Zombies. Yeah. Golem beings. Describe what that is, unless you already know. Vampires, voodoo, Loch Ness, Bigfoot. And if we have time, we could do witches. Do we need to do witches and wizards? You guys already know, right? We can. I'll put it down. Hold on. I'll put it down as a maybe in case anybody wants me to just touch on the witches and the wizards, because I guess you can't really do Halloween without witches and wizards. Ghosts? Yeah, I have videos about this all. If I don't get to it, I have a video about ghosts. I think it's called Ghosts, Are They Real? Really easy to search. And I have a video about witches. So you can just search Starseed Academy Witch, Starseed Academy Ghost, and those videos will pop up, but we'll try to touch on them at some point. Okay, let's dive in. So, because I've already set up the sacred space, I'm just going to get started channeling, okay? So I'm going to ask the record keepers of Earth to please share with me the truth of werewolves. What is the origination of this legend? Is it a legend? Is it real? And bring through as many details with as much clarity as you can, please. And thank you so much. Wow, just even connecting with these crystals, it feels like they're real. Like these are personalities. This is intelligent life. It's not an inanimate object at all. And it's reminding me of tree roots. You know how like trees communicate under the ground through their roots and then they all are on the same gossip? It's like that. It's like these crystals are all, I don't know, they're all connected. They're all intelligent. They all have their own piece, book. They're all their own individual library. And then together it's like this huge Wikipedia of Earth. It's wild. So this is like the Akashic records of Earth. It's in crystals stored in the actual Earth itself. Though I'm sure there's a spirit version, this is where I was directed to go. So super, super like physical and very real. So I'm being shown some of the images that we would expect. I'm seeing a werewolf, I'm seeing a wolf, and then I'm seeing a half man, half wolf, and then I'm seeing the full moon. And then I'm seeing a syringe. Okay, interesting. It's very visual right now. I'm just we'll follow this line of clues and we'll come into the greater message. Okay, I'm being shown babies. Wow, that was a little dark and not expected. I was shown syringe, you know, like a needle to insert something, and babies. Like this was some kind of experiment. And I'm hearing the word shapeshifter. Okay, we do know they're shapeshifters. Absolutely. Okay, so this is something added into the human. It's a baby, so I'm just like super upset right now because like a baby can't choose that. I asked for the origination. So I mean, yes, these are the first werewolves. And I'm seeing that this is real. This is real, you guys. Oh my God. So it's a blood disease. It's a form of a blood disease. It is carried through the blood, like, I mean, other blood diseases that we know, which means if somebody gets, right now we're looking at the origination, how did this start? But later on down the line, how does it spread? Werewolf attacks where the victim doesn't die and it gets into their blood. It's carried on the blood. It's carried on the blood, but I'm being shown saliva too. So what does that? So that means it's in the chemical makeup of the being. I don't know. I heard that it was a blood disease, and I'm seeing that it can be spread. It can be spread from one being to the other to the other. Obviously, this is not a widespread problem on Earth right now, or I don't think it is, but maybe it was at one time. So let's get that info. Unfortunately, I do need to go back to the scene with the baby and somebody doing this syringe because I don't like that, but I do need to know why. Why is that the origination point? Who did that and why? Like, why on earth? Why? My God. Oh, I don't even want to believe what I'm receiving. I thought this was going to be such a light video, you guys. Hold on. Let me just double check something here. No, okay. All right. Here was okay, I was hoping that this was gonna be a lot lighter, and I thought it was gonna be like, for instance, in Atlantis, there was a lot of like fun, not fun. Well, yeah, kind of fun. It was like fun DNA splicing that they did with like animals and human stuff. For instance, whenever I've done readings before for people where I see that they are a human in Atlantis, but they have like these really like a bigger eyes than normal and these little cute antlers, like they're like a, and these little, it's like a little baby deer face, but it's like a girl and she's like a deer and a girl at once. And it's like, it wasn't a natural birth like that, obviously, but in Atlantis, it was all about like, trendy, and it was all about like the interest in it, and some of it was for the actual like benefit of like maybe having cat eyes or something like that, but a lot of it was actually just like, you know, in Hunger Games when you saw like the weird crazy styles of like the elites and the futuristic people because they did. Okay, let's set that aside. That's what I thought we were going to be looking at. Oh, like remnants of the Atlantis thing. No, that isn't it at all. This is actually super sad. It's like, you know how you see a show or a video and it's all about like the government doing testing on kids? Like think Stranger Things, like Stranger Things. If you saw that, like the little girl 11, it's like that. But it's like why? Why would the government, and I actually got the word government, and I was like, no, I don't want it to be that. So badly didn't want it to be that. I wanted it to be like this fantasy thing. Um and then it just came back government. So okay, so this, the origination anyway, was a governmental thing, which is like, okay, let me just see how far back does this go, because there are like fairy tales from so long ago. I think, how old do the werewolf legends go back? I'm hearing this other message and it's saying werewolves and vampires are intrinsically linked in this way, and that this was not born of a fairy tale like thing. This was not born of like the Brothers Grimm or like the Black Forest in Germany or like some kind of weird phenomena around the world. This was this was governmental. Okay, let me see if I can get when, because I feel like, is this like, how recent is this? Are we talking 1900s, 1800s? I heard the word orphans. That makes sense, right? I'm just seeing like these I don't know if it's underground or like really secretive bunkers that feel like they're underground. And I'm seeing that there is, they hire someone to actually recruit children or like babies or very, very young children that are orphaned in some way. And then they are using them as test subjects to inject blood diseases. And it looks like we can't talk about one without the other. I'm seeing that my werewolf on my list here and the vampires are these blood diseases. I really like, I mean, I guess I've seen in fairy tales that there is like a really strong link between werewolves and vampires. If one shows up, the other one seems to show up, and they always seem to be enemies in some way. But it looks like they both had their origination point in during these like governmental experiments. And I'm thinking like that this was before obviously the 2000s, but before the 1900s, in like the late 1800s or mid 1800s is what it feels like. Like I'm seeing 1860 something maybe. And this is just sad. Okay, so that's the origination point. I know there's more that we can learn. The blood diseases, the werewolf one is called lycanthropy, which we probably know. I already knew that. And then the vampire one is also a blood disease, and it's I've seen it before. It starts with a P. Porphyria or we can Google this. Porphyria or something like that. Okay, so blood diseases created the original, the very first werewolves and vampires. Okay, so I'm going to ask for more about that now that we have the originations, which weren't really all that happy, but I guess it is it is the Halloween edition, and things are going to be maybe a bit of a darker energy. That's okay. Okay, so more about werewolves. Let's go with that. So again, connecting with these record keepers of Earth, let me know more about the werewolves. They're showing me the full moon, and they're saying it's not actually connected to the full moon the way that we think it is. It's connected to a cycle. So it's like something to do with the way that the blood cycles through the body, that there's a certain point, like maybe every month, and that's where like the whole full moon thing came in. It's not the moon that forces the change. It's great emotions, like overwhelming emotions, like anger, sadness, losing control in any way can bring over this like shapeshifter kind of change. And then also there's a monthly cycle that the blood goes through, which I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what that is, but apparently our blood does something. You know how our cells are like regenerating every so often? I guess the blood cycles through itself and cleans itself every so often. And the blood disease happens at like the beginning of that cycle, whatever that is, when the blood is like purest or something. I don't know. Okay, so these werewolves started as babies, and many of them died during the shift and the change. And then I see that they moved into trying it on older children after that because the babies were too delicate. They went into older children, like toddlers. They tried it on a little bit older than that. That's so freaking sad, you guys. I'm sorry to report all this, but like toddlers, 2, 3, and then they moved into like 4, 5, 6 year olds. And then they found some kind of like sweet spot around 5 years old. And it looks like boys were more able to hold this and survive. So there was a lot more boys than there was girls. In fact, the girls are so extremely rare. I don't really know if they got any, maybe 1 or 2, but it's like almost nothing. So there was no natural like procreation that was able to happen between them. So there's no procreation between werewolves, but there is a spreading of the blood disease to another human. Okay. But from what I'm understanding, it would have to be not just a little bit of blood. It would have to be like a good intentional thing, right? Like, I don't think that everybody that's bit by a werewolf turns into a werewolf, because it's the blood has to be it's not saliva, I don't think. It feels like it needs to be an actual intentional putting your blood in someone's cut or whatever. Or I guess that could happen in a really big accident where everybody's injured, for sure. If somebody's bleeding and you're cut and it connects, but that's going to be like a rare situation, right? Because if the werewolf is attacking you, unless you cut it at the same time and you get blood on your hands that are cut up. Anyway, so that's how it spreads, not through mating. It's not that they can't mate, it's that they just can't have babies. That because there's no girl werewolves. And I'm seeing that if for some reason we're on procreation right now, if a boy who gets old enough and has this blood disease of lycanthropy, and then bears children with a human woman, that the blood is diluted enough that there might be a few symptoms, but they're not gonna shapeshift. They might have like really excellent sense of smell or eyesight or something like that, or a bit of extra strength, but they're not going to actually shapeshift. It has to be like a full dose. It was actually hard for them they have to give so much of a dose of this. Can you imagine, to try to create a shapeshifter, how powerful the medicine would have to be to create that? So you need like such a strong dose, which is why most of the children didn't survive it. So this was like a real thing, but it was like actually very rare. Not like, it never really like took off around like globally or anything like that. It was like super small communities, couple of communities maybe, and then it just kind of fizzled out. It looks like this was going for like a few decades, and then probably that's where all the stories come from, and that's how you kind of like keep things alive, is through the stories. But no, there's none right now. There's no shapeshifters happening right now. And this was not a natural shapeshifter. I've probably talked with you about shapeshifters before, like in the Lemuria video. That wasn't like natural and energetic and like very spirit involved. This was like forcing the body to do something that wasn't natural, and it would like the bones would literally break. like during the shift, the bones would break, and it was very, very, I see like this, like being like in between states, panting and bleeding and oozing and all these broken bones. And it's a very long process. It's not even half an hour. This is like, the good part of a day to try to shift. It's not this way that we hear it in stories. And then once they are in that werewolf state, let's find out what that looked like. Did it look like half man, half werewolf? That's the in between. That's the in between state, I'm thinking. Let me see if they ever fully look like just a wolf. In a way, yes, but not in their posture. They're not fully, like the spine wasn't the same. It wasn't this full, you know how like a wolf is like straight back, rectangular, and the legs are at the bottom. The human was almost like this, like the butt up a little bit and then the head down, almost like if you were to try to run around on your hands and feet, the way that so something, it wasn't, you would tell. I think you would look at it and you would know that's not a regular wolf. The posture was wrong. The hands looked a little bit more like gross than just like dog or wolf paws. It was like kind of these weird evil claw things with like very little hair. This angled spine. They're showing me the ears too, like something wasn't right about the ears. They weren't these big fluffy ears. They were more short, and again the hair was missing. So there were like human kind of weird features coming through that weren't fully covered in hair, not quite the right shape. And yes, you would know it was a weird thing. I've also heard, I want to know, did the werewolves get bigger than the human host? Were they this huge thing, or was it the same? Okay, right away they're saying no, this is very scientific. It's not a fantasy. So it's not like suddenly they become this large, huge dog wolf thing like they've talked about, unless it was some great big man who's had all these bones. You can't grow extra bones, and the bones, when they rearrange themselves, that's the shape. So if it's a child, it's small, right? That's so sad. And as they get older, I'm seeing that they didn't live very long, like I'm thinking like not even to 30s, not even into 30s, because it was so traumatic on the body. And when they're going through the shift, as the bones are breaking, it's actually like very likely for it to pierce things that are important, like your lungs, your kidney, like your stomach, your kidneys, your bowels. If anything gets pierced, it's kind of over. That doesn't heal itself. They weren't all healing either. So a lot of these myths are not true. They're not huge werewolves. They don't live long, long lives. They don't heal instantly if something goes wrong. The amount of bones that they have is the amount of bones that they have to work with. They don't look exactly like wolves. However, they do shift into some kind of a wolf style being. And the thing is that they have heightened senses in the human and in the wolf form. Heightened smell, heightened sight, heightened hearing. Also like a sense of like a sixth sense, where you could just, is that intuition maybe, where when someone's watching you, or you feel a presence in the room, like that intuitive, I don't know what word to give that right now, but they just had that as well. Like animals just know before you know when something's around, like that. I guess speed, they did have extra speed. And then the extra strength, I mean, just in the claws, the claws and the teeth, let me see how that's possible. I'm questioning, how could the teeth change? So let me see what is the truth there. Ooh, I just got chills. Because the weird thing is I saw claws, but then I saw human teeth, and I'm like, why do they have claws but not fangs? And again, the information that I'm receiving is they could only use what they had to start with. And all it is rearranging it. So this is gross. So the claws are actually the finger bones with like the hands kind of reshaped into looking like this webbed kind of thing with a little bit of like, that's maybe why they're not as hairy either. Like if we're only, anyway, the claws are the finger bones, like protruding outwards in these weird webby things, like the skin almost like gets a little more like webby, or maybe it just looks like that because the skin pulls back and there's these bone claws is what I'm going to call it. And the teeth don't change. Like, that's so weird. That's so weird. This will be the ugliest creature you've ever seen because there's all of this rearranging in the shape of the, like the arms, legs, and spine mostly, a little bit in the neck I'm seeing. The teeth don't change. There's like bone claws in the fingers and the toes. There's no tail. This is not what I thought it was. So basically, the fairy tales have taken this kind of gross thing and made it into something a lot cooler than what it was, to be honest with you. The blood disease part is real. A lot of things about werewolves are real, like how they can't breed, how they can spread their disease, how they're not born with it, they get it through something like an attack, how they have extra sensory perceptions, and how they have some extra strength and speed in some ways, but they're not these huge things. They're not like, okay. I don't want to spend all the time, and I just saw now we're at 30 minutes because I just love werewolves. And this is so fascinating. I just want to keep like asking more questions, but it's just weird. Like, it's honestly just gross and weird. Pretty much just think about a human's pieces being rearranged, but not really changed. And the hair thing is weird because I did see like fur on it. Not like this beautiful coat like a wolf, like some fur that kind of tapers off before the feet and face, like kind of bearish in the hands, feet, and face, but there is hair on the body. And I'm like, that's not there in the kid before. But then when they shapeshift, it is there. And then when they switch back to human, I see all the hair falling off and like landing on the floor, or like you'd be like brushing it off yourself, which is really weird. That hair can grow that fast. So, okay, so governmental thing, experimental thing, origination started on babies, which didn't work, older children until they got it to work, which was around like 5 or 6 or something like that. And then they worked to keep them alive, and they never anybody made it really till like even 30. Not like we're seeing it, like, played up in stories of being these strong, amazing, long lasting forces of nature. Not really like that. I think a true shapeshifter would be. But that's not the information I'm being given for what a werewolf is. So we're talking the blood disease. We're talking lycanthropy. Okay, a true shapeshifter is it's not a blood disease. It's like an energetic, spiritual thing. Could be a DNA thing potentially, but not this blood disease. Okay, is there anything else I need to ask about werewolves before I move on? Pretty disappointed because I really was like waiting for this fantastical thing, and it's kind of just sad. This is why you remove your ego and your preferences, though, and then you get the truth, right? Which actually makes like a lot more sense. Oh, obviously, I should have asked why. Why on earth did the government want to do this? Why did they do anything, though? But let me just see if there's anything that comes through when I say like why. I'm hearing to see if they could. Okay, but is there a reason beyond that? So it's almost like the government was trying like this whole, like, create a super soldier kind of vibe, thinking that they were going to get these like amazing hunters, amazing trackers, something like an animal that could track and hunt and catch, and would be able to be commanded and would listen. And I think that they gave up on this and stopped doing it because it just wasn't what they thought it was going to be. It wasn't really helpful, I don't think, in any way. And those poor children. Okay, so I'm going to skip down my list to vampires because they were so connected. So again, we have something similar. This is a governmental experiment. The porphyria, I don't know how to say it. It's like a vampire disease. It's a blood disease. And this was supposed to give someone, let me just tune in and see why did they do this? Again, it's the same idea where this is, wait a sec. Something new came through. I don't feel like it was children this time. Okay, this was not done on children. Okay, this was done on like psych ward patients with no caregivers. So if somebody was in like a psych ward and they had nobody that was taking care of them, then they were very susceptible to governmental experimentation. And it happened a lot more than we realize, in more ways than just this. So this was one of them. This was this like injecting these, and these were, you know what, I think that the werewolves were first, because this feels later on or like more recent. Um, I think that they learned from that maybe and realized that children are not hardy enough. And then they used like mentally unstable people because they can't complain to anyone and people will just think they're crazy, to do these experiments on. I see them again targeting men mostly, but some women. They're injecting them on a regular basis with this blood disease. It looks like this one fades because I see that they have to regularly inject them, and the effects start to fade if they don't at intervals give them more. So it wouldn't be natural and it wouldn't be long lasting, and it would be difficult to transmit this because as soon as you go away from your injection, it starts to fade right away. So not impossible to give it to somebody else, but it's not very long lasting. It doesn't last in the blood like the lycanthropy seemed to. Because I saw them doing that, just one dose or whatever, a hearty dose, and then it was like that. It stayed with the body for some reason. So for vampires, there's no cycle of it creating something within it. It just is strong and then it fades, and then they do it again, strong and then it fades, and it fades even in just a few weeks. Okay, so what questions do we want to know about vampires? Okay, let's start with why this time. Why do it? And then what did it create in the humans? So why bother? Why is the government such a dick to these poor people? I'm seeing so many of the weaknesses of what it caused. I'm looking for what are the strengths here, because I'm not sensing any extrasensory perception like I did with the lycanthropy. So what did they even gain? I feel like I'm just going to share what I'm receiving. I'm not getting the answers yet to my questions. I feel like they're coming, but I'm just seeing like all of these scenes of it driving people further into madness. Like they're getting like more mentally unstable. They're further into this madness. It's really messing with their heads, their minds. It's causing hallucinations of some sort. It's like it's not a hallucinogenic, yet it's creating like, what is this that they're showing me? Something in the mind is getting like split, broken. It's almost like oh, what's the word? Schizophrenia, I think. It's like breaking their minds. Why do that? Is this a weapon, a bio weapon? Are you just intentionally like, or is the government just intentionally doing this to break people in their brain? I'm getting so many weird things today that I think it's just so funny what you expect and you get something so different. So, you know, the whole like vampires hate the sun, they're showing me that that has to do with like the colors and the rays of light of the sun activating in the mind these hallucinations of, and it's very fearful. So like if they hide in the dark, they can kind of just like cradle themselves in a bit of a more peaceful state. They're hiding from a mind disease that is activated or amplified through sunlight in some way. Like, I don't know in what way. It's like, you know, like if you're tripping balls, you don't want to go out into the day and try and do something regular. You just want to go to bed kind of thing. It's like that. Like they just need to hide away. Okay, so anyway, it really exacerbates the problem of the mental instability and the reason that they're in this psych ward to begin with. And the whole like the paleness of the skin, I think, is from them hiding from the sun. They don't sleep. So like the sleeping all day and like being up at night would probably also be that. Like if you don't want to be in the daylight, if it bothers your, like, I feel like they're very sensitive in their eyes. Like it's so much stimulation. It's way too much. So like the eyes are sensitive. They would need like major sunglasses, real sensitivity to sunlight. Okay, so in whatever way, like extreme sensitivity to sunlight, which also brings on these like psychosis moments. So they just hide in the dark. And so maybe that's where this whole myth is about the nighttime lifestyle and then hiding away in the dark. Okay. And then them being like rail thin all the time. Like you see a vampire and they're like very like gaunt, like rail thin. Well, they're not healthy in their minds and they're not taking care of their bodies. They're not bathing. They're not clipping their nails. Maybe that's the claw thing. They are not eating. Yeah, I'm seeing like, where does the drinking blood come from? Let me just see. What is that? Where does that come from? It's like what I'm receiving is that the psychosis is paired with like a very unstable, like spontaneous, you don't know what's going to happen, like violence. So somebody that, okay, so imagine somebody in a psych ward and then they go for their treatment and maybe the nurses don't even know what's up. And then they come back and they're like spinning like crazy. And they're like crazy, like scratching, biting, all of that. They won't eat. They won't come into the sun. When the sun touches I feel like their eyes are very like that. They keep being shown like how sensitive the eyes are. If the sunlight is like in there, if they look at it, it's like extremely painful. It gets very much connected. Your eyes are very much connected sensory wise to your brain. I feel like they're suffering from like extreme migraines or headaches as well, which would make you crazy. And then like everything's way too stimulating. Everything's too loud. Everything's too bright. Everything's too, because you're spinning inside your mind. I don't see drinking blood anywhere. I don't know where that came from for a story. I just see the violence, a bit of the violence. I do not see claws, not real claws, just like somebody who's not taking care of themselves. I don't see claws. I don't see fangs. I don't see drinking blood. I see someone who's crazy and unstable and violent and hiding from the sun. And obviously like reclusive because they're not going to have any friends or they're not going to be able to talk to anybody. Okay, let me see if there's anything else that needs to come forward about vampires. They're comparing it to MK Ultra, like what was the point of that? Maybe to control people, but it also creates that madness. It's the same idea. But I think like way before that. Maybe this was like the original MK Ultra, like super early on. If you don't know what MK Ultra is, that's such a huge thing. I'm just going to say Google it. It's another government experiment. Probably shouldn't be saying these words on YouTube. This vampiric porphyria blood disease was started as a governmental experiment on people in psych wards that were very vulnerable or maybe very ill people. That sometimes people were put in psych wards when they were actually not crazy. They were just like sick in some way or different. So, I mean, it happened to anybody really in there. And what they were looking to create feels like a bioweapon. Like, what can we do? Like, let's figure out what is the extremes that the human brain can handle. And can it handle this disease? Again, this is a blood disease, though. This was not injected into the brain. This wasn't electroshock therapy. This wasn't mind manipulation through like brainwashing. This was an actual blood disease that brought on these episodes, and it would fade after a few weeks. It wasn't natural. It did not last in the body. It made people like vicious, almost like animalistic, crazy, vicious, animalistic. You'd have to put them into that padded room and lock them down. They probably would even hurt themselves in there, though. Like lost to reality and to themselves in all ways. Like an injured or scared animal. You know how they don't know what's going on and they're freaking out. You know, if you've ever tried to like help an animal that was injured and it just like freaks out to get away from you. You can't hold on to it. It's just wild. It's so wild in that moment. It creates that wildness in people. So, okay. Was that the last thing? So again, governmental reasons, I mean, are hazy, but that's probably because there was more than one. I'm feeling like it was some kind of just experimentation to see what would happen if nobody cares about these people. They did lots of other kinds of experiments on them too. So why not try this other thing that was supposed to create, surges in the mind of adrenaline, hallucinations, but it would have made them like so overstimulated, so anxious, so paranoid, so screaming crazy, like forget they're human, not even able to use their words, like wild, like a wild animal. Why? That's crazy. Okay. And is there anything else about vampires? I don't see the blood drinking. I think this is kind of where because I asked for the origination of these stories. This is like the origination, but yes, where it went to from there was like these huge stories. And I know that some people think that like the vampire legends are from things like blood drinking beings, like maybe cults that do blood drinking, oh, I should not say these words on YouTube. Oh my God. Should I write it down? Right? No, I'll write it down. You know what? It actually came up on a show. I find it very interesting that this is now becoming mainstream. It was on a show, and I don't know, is this because there's an awakening happening within media, or is this to downplay it into just another conspiracy theory so people don't think it's real? Then everyone's like, oh no, that was just a show. That's not real. But anyway, what I was going to say is I know that people think that the legends of vampires come from people that drink blood because of that big word at the bottom, which I'm just so afraid to even say anything on YouTube. It's too scary now. I've almost lost everything before over the COVID and over a few other things. But that's not the origination I'm getting for the vampires. It's not the reptilians. It's not that. It's not the cults. It's a governmental experimentation. So very weird, you guys. Very sad, very sad. Look at who they chose to experiment on. Of course, what bullies, what cowards, like children and the sick. You suck. You suck. Okay, so I'm checking off werewolves. I'm checking off vampires. We're at almost an hour, and I know that my longer videos don't do as well. Like people don't have the time. So I've already hit my goal. Like I've hit my limit. We need to stop. So I'm going to cover in the next one, because that took a lot longer than I thought, but I just had a lot more questions. How can you not have a million follow-up questions? So for next time, we are going to do a part 2, apparently. Halloween costume to be determined if I will wear it. I have one. It is, no, I'm not going to tell you what it is, because that'll just be fun to not just show up. It'll be top secret. So for number 2, for Halloween edition number 2, I want to cover zombies, golems, and if we have time, Voo Doo, Loch Ness, Bigfoot, and what else do you have? What else do you want to have covered? I kind of think we covered some of the big ones today, so that's good. We got the big ones done. I feel like the other ones won't take as long, so we could probably get a bunch of little ones into part 2. So for now, we've done werewolves and vampires. Interesting, sad. It is what it is. It's actually not that surprising, but that's even sad to say that. But let me know what your thoughts are, because I'm really curious. Let me know, comments below. What do you think? Does that resonate? Does that feel weird? Did you get anything additional? Because when I'm receiving and pulling down information, I know you guys are also receiving pieces of the puzzle. Let me know, what did I miss? What did you receive I didn't say? Because I love that. And then just a little reminder here. I wanted to say I just dropped, I have like 5 master classes. I just dropped them all into my membership today. Like I created like a special corner in my Starseed Academy membership called master classes, and I just gave them all to them. So the membership group just keeps getting better and better. So if you are interested in that, I'm going to have the link below for you to check it out. I think that the link I had going for a bit wasn't working, you guys, and someone told me about that. So I've fixed the link, so it is working now. So please check out the link below for the Starseed Academy membership, where you will receive instant access to over 50 videos of workshops and events and lessons, way over 50, and then also a corner of where all my master classes are kept, plus live events with me every week, plus this beautiful community of awakening starseeds like yourself, and you become who you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with people on their earth mission, in their awakening energy, not the 3D vibe, the 5D, 6D vibe, okay? So come along on that and see yourself start to grow so quickly, evolve, your gifts come online. Like, it's such a powerful container to be in. And then I also have, I'm filming this on Friday. You're seeing it on Sunday. Right now I have I'm thinking I have 3 spaces available still for the Starseed CEO. So if you've been hearing me talk about that on Instagram, or maybe you caught it on the last video, I want to just let you know that there's still a few spaces available. Please DM me right away on Instagram because they're going fast. Say Starseed CEO, and I'll send you some extra information about that. So that's for somebody who has a spiritual business that's not where they want it to be and they want some help with that. Or they want to start their spiritual business finally. They're finally so ready to unplug from 9 to 5 and get going, and they need a guide to take them through that. And I just feel so like perfect for that role when it comes to starseeds trying to start a spiritual business. Like, I literally did it myself from scratch. And I've got all kinds of ways to help you to bring through, like, channel this fire content, bring through the services, the offerings, the content, the business names, all the strategy pieces, plus all of those energetic pieces too, to like you channel from your team. What are your actual soul gifts that you're supposed to be using here? You know, you probably have more than one. Let's develop those together. Let's see how we can put them into service. Just so much. Literally, like, Starseed CEO is using everything that I am in one container, which I don't think I've ever done before. And it's a one-on-one, just you and I, right? So it's very intimate. It's very confidential. And it's where I get to use all of my powers of activation, healing, channeling, bringing online things like your light language, your soul gifts, your healer self, your doing these soul retrievals if needed, really doing the energetics of removing any blocks in your psychic centers, developing those psychic gifts or soul gifts, whatever it is. It's going to be different for each person. It's going to be like a completely unique path depending on who you are. And then hearing from you what your business goals are and your business dreams gets me so excited. And then getting on, like, you know, walking the path with you, having somebody in your corner who knows it so well and has really created something beautiful from nothing. Like, I didn't have any help at the beginning. I certainly do now. And I truly recommend investing in yourself and in your business. As soon as I hired my own mentor, everything just blew up for me. So I want to be that for you. Okay, Starseed CEO, just a couple spots left. That's all I'm going to say for now. I love you guys. Do you want Halloween edition number 2? Do you want to know about the zombies, the golems, the voodoo, the Loch Ness, the Bigfoot? Do you have more you want to know about? What did you think about the vampires and the werewolves? Drop it all below. I'm ready to hear it. Share this if you think it's entertaining. It's the right time of year for this, so have fun with that. Please subscribe for new videos every Sunday. Follow me on Instagram for different content. And before you go, please remember, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within. Because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.